everyone. Thank you for joining us today for another webinar in our Market Access and International Approvals webinar series. My name is Crystal and I am part of the Certification and Approvals technical staff here at Vista Compliance Laboratories. Today I'll be presenting to you the Certification and Approvals regulations as well as the technical requirements for electrical equipment, electronics, and wireless products and device approval in the Philippines. The National Telecommunications Commission of the Philippines, or NTC, regulates the radio frequency spectrum and regulatory standardization in the Philippines, as well as the import, distribution, and sales of wireless telecommunication products on the Philippine market. Radio frequency, RF devices, are required to be properly approved of by the NTC prior to being marketed or imported into the Philippines. A certificate of type approval is required for radio equipment and other regulatory devices to be sold in or imported into the Philippines. Vista Laboratory is an EMC RF compliance test lab and products certification body, and we are experts in global regulatory approvals for radio frequency devices. So, today we'll be going over the requirements of radio frequency and telecommunications approvals in the Philippines. In this webinar, we will provide an overview of the major topics necessary for you to get radio devices on the right track for authorization and distribution in the Philippines. If you have any questions on the topics presented today or any other immediate questions regarding compliance testing and product certification, you can reach us at info@vista-compliance.com. Now, let's begin the presentation. So starting with a brief overview, what is NTC? NTC, or National Telecommunications Commissions of the Philippines, regulates the installation, operation, and maintenance of radio stations, both for private and public use. The NTC is the government agency responsible for the supervision, adjudication, and control over telecommunications products and services all over the Philippines. NTC is an attached agency of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, responsible for the supervision, adjudication, and control over all telecommunication services and television and radio networks throughout the Philippines. They issue certificates for both radio and telecom approval. NTC type approval certification is applicable to all customer premises equipment that is physically located on the customer's premises intended to connect to the public telecommunications network. Let's take a look at the different NTC approval methods. A type acceptance certificate for radio communications equipment, RCE, is a written authority issued by the Commission, certifying that a radio communications equipment complies with the regulatory requirements and granting the use of the equipment within the Philippines. A type approval certificate for customer premises equipment, CPE, is a written authority issued by the Commission, certifying that the customer's premises equipment complies with the regulatory requirements and granting the use of the equipment in the Philippines. A grant of equipment conformity, GEC, is a written authority issued by the Commission, certifying that the customer's premises equipment with built-in and integrated radio interface complies with the regulatory requirements and granting the use of the equipment within the Philippines. Now, let's start by briefly taking a look at an overview of these type approval processes. There are two types of NTC certifications: type approval and type acceptance. Type approval is targeted at telecommunication products such as telephones and fax machines. NTC type approval certification is applicable to all customer premises equipment that is physically located on the customer's premises intended to connect to the public telecommunications network. Telephone handsets, DSL, and satellite television set-top boxes are examples of products that fall under this scheme. NTC accepts CE, FCC, IC, and CTIC, as well as other standards such as EMC, RF, and telecom test reports, and obtains CB and NB recognition safety reports. The following steps must be performed in order to obtain the NTC Type Approval Certificate of Homologation. 1. Letter of authorization signed by the manufacturer. 2. Insurance of local supplier accreditation to the NTC. 3. Sample shipments to an NTC accredited lab. 4. In-country type testing by an NTC accredited laboratory. 5. Documentation insurance to NTC. 6. NTC review and assessment of the technical documentation and test reports issued by the supplier for further process approval. 7. NTC Type Approval Certificate Insurance. 8. NTC Type Approval Product Marketing. Type acceptance targets wireless products. All RCE radio communications equipment products not connected to the public network nor under the scope of type approval are subjected to mandatory type acceptance certification. RCE are devices that emit radio frequency waves, signals, transmissions, messages, i.e., Wi-Fi and or Bluetooth communication. This type acceptance scheme can take advantage of the CE or FCC testing activity. Therefore, in-country testing activities can be avoided if an accredited test report is available. NTC certification is a wireless certification in the Philippines. For telecommunication equipment, telecommunication terminal equipment, the existing mandatory specifications for mobile communications products are expanded to wireless-related products. All RCE radio communication equipment products that are not connected to the public network or fall under the scope of type approval must undergo type acceptance certification. RCE are devices that emit radio frequency waves, signals, transmissions, and messages, such as those used in Wi-Fi and or Bluetooth communication. This type acceptance scheme can take advantage of the CE and FCC testing activities. Therefore, in-country testing activities can be avoided if an accredited test report is available. The proper steps in the procurement of radio communication equipment to be used in the Philippines. Applicant must first secure the application for permit to purchase or process from the NTC regional offices. This form is APP L-01. If the application is approved, applicant will be issued a permit to purchase, possess, indicating that frequency assigned to applicant, validity and number of units, among other necessary information. Upon insurance of the permit to purchase, applicant can then buy purchase radio communication equipment from authorized dealers. Only the commercial type approved, accepted equipment by the National Telecommunication Commission can be used. Here is the list of type acceptance for radio communication equipment: wireless speaker system, notebook computer, wireless keyboard, CPU for desktop computer, portable computer, wireless speaker, smart TV, wireless active speaker, soundbar, smart LED monitor, wireless earphones, door switch, air purifier, RFID reader. Here is the required technical documents to apply for RCE certification: actual photos of equipment intended for Philippine market, datasheet with operational and functional description, and RF technical specifications, including frequency range, maximum RF output power, EIRP, ERP, and modulation type, emission type, certificate of conformity, compliance, or test report stating compliance with the following internationally accepted standards issued by a foreign regulator or conformity assessment body, i.e., certification body or accredited test laboratory. This should cover electromagnetic compatibility, EMC, radio frequency, RF, efficiency. If the test report is not ready, applicants can also provide manufacturer's self-declaration of conformity, SDOC, subjected to A. Submission of certification that the device equipment has been applied with and accepted by pertinent certification bodies. B. Submission of test reports from any accredited laboratory testing bodies certifying compliance with internationally accepted standards of EMC and RF efficiency. And C. The URL website of the bodies concerned should be indicated for verification of submitted information. Also, please include power of attorney. Customer Premises Equipment, CPE, requires type approval certification. It is an equipment located at the customer's premises enabling communication or a relevant component thereof, which is intended to be connected directly or indirectly by any means whatsoever to interfaces of public telecommunications networks. An interface means a network termination point at which a user is provided with access to a public telecommunications network through wire or wireless interface. Import permits are required for the importation of Customer Premises Equipment, CPE, to ensure network interface compatibility with public telecommunications network, and when such CPE is connected, will not cause harm or ensure safe operation of the said network and the customers and subscribers. Here is a list of type acceptance for radio communications equipment, CPE, mobile phones, LTE pluggable module, satellite phones, GPS tracker, session board controller, cellular modem, global telematics. Here is the required technical documents to apply for CPE certification. It would be the same process as grant of equipment conformity. Actual photos of equipment intended for Philippine market. For wireless equipment, data sheet with operational and functional description. And RF, technical specifications, frequency range, maximum RF output, power, EIRP, ERP, modulation type and emission type. For wired terminal equipment, data sheet with operational and functional description. Manufacturer's declaration of conformity with the CPE interface standards, certification of conformity, compliance, and/or test reports stating the compliance with the following internationally accepted standards issued by a foreign regulator, or conformity assessment body, i.e., certification body or accredited test lab. For wireless equipment, electrical safety, electromagnetic compatibility, EMC, evaluation of human exposure, specific absorption rates required for mobile phones, and RF spectrum efficiency. For wired terminal equipment, electrical safety, electromagnetic compatibility, EMC, and network interface compatibility. Supporting documents. An authorization letter issued by the applicant to an authorized representative or agent with valid ID to file the application and claim the certificate, or authorized letter issued by the manufacturer appointed as entity to be the applicant, or for representatives, authorization letter duly signed by the applicant and valid ID of authorized representative. For NTC certification, the lead time would be around 5 weeks. The certificate is valid indefinitely, unless there is a significant change that causes the applicant to apply for a whole new certificate for the product to continue to be imported. Type approval for fixed line equipment is valid for a period of 1 year and is renewable before the end of March each year. Family approvals are not applicable. All products required type approval for RF telecom modules or end products with embedded or built-in RF telecom modules must be certified per module instead. Model 1 with Model A, Certificate 1, Model 1 with Model B, Certificate 2. Module approval is permitted, but it is not sufficient enough to cover the host product. Separate host devices require individual approvals and individual certificates. And multiple branding is not allowed. So if you have one device that is sold under 2 different brand names, the product must be certified under each brand name. This is an example of the NTC Type Approval Certificate. On the top center of the certificate is the Radio Equipment Type Approval number, which must be shown on the label. This is the part that says Certificate Number. Information shown on the certificate includes the applicant's name, address, telephone number and registration number, and the description of the device. The description of the device includes the category, model, and if applicable, the frequency range, ITU emission code, modulation, power output, channel spacing, and features. On the button of the grant, it states that any change, modification of the circulatory or interface specifications of this equipment shall render the certificate null and void. This certificate is issued on condition that the grantee complies and will continue to comply with the requirements of the Customer Premises Equipment Interface Standards, CPE or RCE, promoted by the Commission.
After the NTC grants the certificate, the product must be marked with NTC's official label, which will contain the type of equipment to be specified as well as a specific identification number for the equipment. For label requirement, permanently affixed on each equipment and easy to find it. And for e-labeling, equipment shall be integrated display screen can present the required label requirement. Provides guidance on how device will an integrated display screen can present the required label information electronically. The manufacturer will just send a letter to NTC that will be using e-label instead of physical label. NTC accepted RF logo is voluntary, but for NTC type approval, telecom is mandatory. For user menu, there is no specific requirement on the NTC labeling. Issuance of permit to import for non-type approved, non-type accepted customer permissive equipment for purpose of demonstration and testing through the Philippine National Single Window, also known as NSW. A permit to import is a written authority issued by the Commission for the importation of non-type approved, non-type accepted customer permissive equipment for purpose of demonstration or testing. These products must be equipment used for a trial, demonstration, or research purpose on a non-commercial basis, or equipment being tested in a laboratory within Philippines. The equipment specified in the permit grant must be used exclusively by the applicant. When requesting a provisional type approval, applicants must submit the purpose of the test, trial, research, or demonstration. Details of the units to be tested, including the number. Details of the proposed receptance of the units. Duration of the test, trial, research, or demonstration. The geographical area where the test, trial, research, or demonstration are to be performed, and SSS application as to the completeness of submitted documents. The importation of radio communications equipment is regulated as required by law and to ensure public safety and security, and to adhere to international standards. Import permits are required for the importation of radio communications equipment pursuant to Republic Act No. 3846, as amended by Republic Act No. 584. Permits to import are required for the following radio communications equipment: radio transmitter, radio transceiver, which include base station and other transmission apparatus for radio telephony or radio telegraphy, paging transmitters, paging receivers, satellite transmitters, transceivers, receivers, RFID system, including proximity card and tags, radio apparatus, radio navigational apparatus, and radio remote control apparatus. Import permits are required for the importation of customer premises equipment, also known as CPE, to ensure network interface compatibility with public telecommunications network, and when such CPE is connected, will not cause harm, or ensure safe operation of the said network and the customer subscribers. Permits to import is required for the following: cord or cordless telephone sets, fax machine, private branch exchange, or the key telephone system, modem, mobile phones, and post terminal. For product discrepancies in the technical document, any of the following needs to be submitted: declaration of product similarity, declaration of output power limitation, declaration of product rebranding, model renaming, similar documents supporting attestation and declaration. Now let's talk about modification. An application for modification of Type Acceptance Certificate for RCE or Type Approval Certificate for CPE or GEC is submitted to the Commission if there is change in the name of grantee, equipment characteristics, specifications, or any particulars indicated in the certification. Any documents that will attest to the following modification: change in the applicant's name or address, change in the type of equipment, change in manufacturer's name, duly accomplished application for modification, letter of intent, copy type acceptance certificate, or copy type approval certificate, or copy grant of equipment conformity. Please note that equipment with new brand or model will require issuance of a new certificate. For supporting documents, authorization letter issued by the applicant to an authorized representative or agent with valid ID to file the application and claim the certificate, or authorization letter issued by the manufacturer appointing the entity to be the applicant, or for representatives, authorization letter duly signed by the applicant and valid ID of authorized representative. Now let's talk a little bit about safety requirement of Philippines. Part of the Bureau of Philippine Standards mandate, also known as BPS, as provided in the Consumer Act of the Philippines, is to protect consumers against hazard to health and safety, as well as to assure the public of the consistency of standardized products in the market. To carry out this duty, the Bureau provides for the standardization and certification of products, both locally manufactured and imported, giving the consumers access to quality and safe products conforming to the relevant Philippine national standards, also known as PNS. Currently, the BPS implements two mandatory products certification schemes: the Philippine Standards Quality or Safety Certification Mark Licensing Schemes, also known as PS, and the Import Commodity Clearance Certification Scheme, also known as ICC. Products covered by the mandatory certification, whether locally manufactured or imported, are not allowed to be distributed in the Philippine market without the necessary PS or ICC marks. At present, there are 87 products and systems covered under the BPS mandatory product certification schemes. They are classified into three major product groups, namely electrical and electronic products, mechanical, building and construction materials, and chemical and other consumer products and systems. Here is the list of products under mandatory certification. It does contain more products than the slide shows. This is just a brief examples. For household applicants, electric fans, electric irons, electric blenders, air conditioners. For lighting and wiring, Christmas lights, lightning chains, preheat magnetic bell sets, extension cord sets, PVC electrical tapes. For steel products, deformed steel bars, low-carbon steel wires, equal-leg steel bars, steel wire nails, automotive-related, safety belts, child restraint system, speed limitation device, and helmets and their visitors. This concludes our webinar on Philippines market access, certifications, and approvals for electrical equipment and wireless products. I hope this webinar was helpful for you in understanding the process of NTC approval and certifications, as well as what requirements are applicable to your products. Compliance with the technical requirements of the NTC is required for all radio and telecom products and ensures telecommunication network interoperability. avoids interference between telecommunication equipment, ensures public safety, and supports national telecommunication industry, innovation, and engineering. All electrical equipment and devices require approval in Philippines prior to distribution or placement on the market. Vista Compliance Labs specialize in certifications, approvals, and compliance testing for electrical and radio frequency device. We are a 17025 accredited EMCRF compliance test lab and 17065 accredited product certification body. We are a telecommunications certification body in the US, Canada, EU, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Japan. And we provide certification and approvals for all product types in countries all over the world. If you would like to stay in touch with regulatory updates, follow us online. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions on the information presented today, or any other general inquiries, you can reach us at any time at info@vista-compliance.com. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.